The moment we booted up this game, something felt off, and not in the obvious horror movie way. It was the kind of wrong that you don't notice at first, but it creeps under your skin, gnaws at the back of your mind, and whispers, "You shouldn't be here." The loading screen didn't feel like a loading screen. The flickering logo didn't feel like just a glitch. It pulsed like it was breathing. At first we laughed. I mean, it's a cat in the hat game, right? How scary could it possibly be? It should have been silly, maybe even dumb. But that laugh died in my throat when I spotted her, in the bottom corner of the screen, barely visible unless you were staring straight at. It was a girl. A pale figure, still as a statue. Her dress looked like it was stitched from old fabric, like it didn't belong in the game at all. Her face expressionless, blank eyes, but the strangest part wasn't that she was there, it was that she was watching. Every time the logo flickered, her head tilted just slightly, like she was following me. We sat in silence, waiting for the game to start. But the timer on the menu didn't count down like a normal one. It froze, then flickered, then reversed. And right there, in those few seconds, I felt my chest tighten. Something wasn't just off. It was wrong. I told myself maybe it was a bug, maybe the developers put her there as some creepy Easter egg, but deep down, I knew that wasn't it. This wasn't just a design choice. This was intentional. And then the text appeared. Thin, sharp red letters stretching across the screen. She exists for one reason. We stared at it, waiting for the rest. The screen flickered once, twice, like it was building suspense on purpose. And then the last words appeared, pulsing in sync with the distorted music. Cat in the Hat. My heart sank. We hadn't even pressed start yet, and I was already sweating. The girl's head tilted one last time, and then, for the first time, she smiled. And that's when I knew pressing start would be a mistake. But we did it anyway. At first, it looked almost harmless. The screen faded into a colorful little room, like something straight out of a children's picture book. Bright walls, big cartoonish furniture, and this cheery background tune playing on a loop. I even laughed seriously. This is what's supposed to scare us. But then the music began to drag, slowly, subtly, like a record player. Running out of power, the cheerful notes warped, melting into something sour and uneasy. At first it was funny, like the game was glitching, but then it got harder to breathe. I realized the tempo wasn't just slowing, it was sinking, matching my heartbeat. I shifted in my chair, trying to shake it off. But that's when I saw her again, the girl. She wasn't in the corner this time. She was right there in the room, standing against the far wall, blank eyes, that same frozen smile, like a doll waiting for someone to play with her. And then, out of nowhere, text slid across the top of the screen, red, jagged, shaking slightly, like the words themselves were alive. "Do you like the Cat in the Hat?" We froze. I swear, the entire room we were sitting in went dead quiet. Even the background hum of my PC fan felt distant. We waited, expecting it to fade, but it just sat there, waiting. I grabbed the mouse, moved the cursor, nothing happened. No options, no answers, just the question staring back at us. "Do you like the Cat in the Hat?" My friend whispered, half joking, half nervous. Yeah, sure. We laughed, but it came out shaky, like the laugh you make when you're trying to convince yourself everything's fine. And then it happened. The girl tilted her head, just a fraction of an inch. But it wasn't a normal tilt. It was stiff, mechanical, like a mannequin being forced to move. The sound cut out completely. No music, no hum, just silence so heavy it pressed down on my chest. I tapped the keyboard. Nothing. Tried to pause. Nothing. The game didn't react except for her. She was reacting, watching. Then the screen stuttered, flickered, and the walls of the cartoon room changed. Scribbles appeared. Crooked, childish drawings of the cat in the hat scrawled across every surface. But the longer we stared, the more we realized these weren't drawings. They shifted, twitched, like something was crawling underneath the paint. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just an Easter egg. It wasn't just some quirky horror twist. Something was alive inside this game, and just as I thought that, her smile widened. The lights in the room flickered. And then, without warning, she stepped forward. 1 second, she was across the room, the next right in front of us. No footsteps, no animation, no transition, just snap. Instant, like the game cut a frame and suddenly she was there, staring into the screen. I swear my whole body froze. It didn't feel like pixels anymore. It felt like she was looking at me. Right through me. Then the speakers cracked. A burst of static, sharp enough to make us flinch, and out of it came her voice. Dry, broken, like an old tape recorder left out in the rain. Say it. That's all she said, 2 words. Say it. We tried to joke our way out of it. Okay, fine, yeah. We like Cat in the Hat. We were laughing, but it wasn't real laughter. It was the kind you use to keep your sanity when you're scared out of your mind. But the game didn't respond. Nothing changed. She just tilted her head, slow, deliberate. The lights in the room around her began to flicker, and suddenly every single door on screen slammed shut. The sound was so loud it made the desk rattle. My heart was racing now. My hands were sweaty on the keyboard. This wasn't funny anymore, and then the walls started to change. At first, it looked like black scribbles. Messy, frantic lines spreading across the wallpaper. But the longer we watched, the more we realized what they were. Drawings, dozens, no hundreds, of crooked sketches of the Cat in the Hat. Overlapping, covering every inch of the walls. But here's the part that still makes me shiver. They were moving. The crooked little hats twitched, the long whiskers shifted like they were breathing. The cartoon smiles stretched wider, teeth sharper. The entire room was alive with them. We sat in silence, too scared to move, too scared to even blink. And then scratch, it started faint, like a fingernail dragging across wood, then another, then dozens. The sound of claws, digging, scraping, tearing. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It wasn't in the game. It was coming from the walls, the real walls, right next to where we were sitting. We froze in silence, staring at each other, the sound getting louder and louder, until the girl on the screen leaned in. Her lips parted and she whispered, "He's here." And then the scratching stopped. The scratching didn't fade. It transformed from tiny little scrapes into this deep, violent, tearing sound, like something massive clawing its way out of the walls. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat, and then, on the game screen, the wallpaper bulged. Like something was pressing against it from the other side. The drawings of the Cat in the Hat stretched and warped, as if they were being pushed out by whatever was underneath. The lights in the room flickered violently, and then the shadow appeared. Tall, long arms, the shape of a crooked hat stretching across the wall. I thought it had to be him, the cat, but no, it was her, the girl. She didn't walk, she crawled. Her body bent in ways no body should bend, knees snapping backward, joints cracking like splintering wood. Her face stayed perfectly still, blank eyes, wide smile while her limbs jerked like a broken marionette. We panicked. My friend shouted, "Go, go, go," and I slammed the keys trying to run. The character on screen sprinted down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. But every door we passed slammed shut behind us, each slam louder than the last, echoing like gunshots. We turned left, dead end, turned right, dead end, no matter which way we went. The hallways looped back into the same room. The same walls, the same crooked drawings, the same soft whisper crawling through the speakers. She exists for one reason. I was breathing so hard my headset fogged up. My palms were slick with sweat. I kept telling myself, it's just a game, it's just a game, but the way the floorboards creaked beneath our character, it didn't sound digital. It sounded real, and then she was back, right in front of us, no crawling this time, no flicker, just there. Inches from the screen, her wide smile stretching until it tore, her jaw cracking open too far, teeth that didn't belong to a human. I screamed, I'll admit it. I screamed out loud, and before I could even process what I was looking at, she lunged. The screen exploded in static, her face breaking into dozens of shards, each one twitching, screaming, laughing all at once. The audio ripped through my headphones like metal grinding on glass. I ripped my headset off. My friend was yelling, my heart was racing, but the game kept going on the monitor. Static, her face flickering, and then nothing. Silence. The screen stayed black for almost a full minute. We didn't move, didn't breathe. And then the nursery rhyme began. The silence was unbearable. Just when I thought the game had finally crashed, I heard it. Faint, distant, a nursery rhyme. At first, it was almost sweet, like something you'd hear from a toy music box, but then it slowed, warped, the notes twisting into something sour and rotten. The words were muffled, sung by a voice that didn't sound human, high-pitched. Off-key, dripping with static, the screen flickered back on and she was there. Her face filled the monitor, too close, glitching in and out, breaking apart and reforming, like her skin was barely holding together. Her eyes were too wide, stretching unnaturally, pupils darting like they were searching for something. Her lips trembled, then peeled back into a smile too big for her face, and then she whispered, "I was made for him." The words crawled down my spine. Every syllable felt like it wasn't just coming from the speakers. It was echoing inside my chest. Behind her, the shadows twisted. At first, I couldn't tell what I was looking at. The shapes moved too fast, too unnatural. But then I saw it. Tall, striped, grinning, that crooked, impossible hat rising above everything else. The cat, but not the cat we knew. Not the playful, silly storybook character. This version was something ancient, something wrong. His grin was jagged, stretching ear to ear, teeth glinting like broken glass. His stripes weren't clean, they were smeared, dripping, as if painted in something dark, and she wasn't afraid of him. She was worshipping him. Her head tilted back, her eyes rolled white, and she repeated it over and over. I was made for him. I was made for him. I was made for him. Each repetition grew louder until it wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a chant. And then the screen glitched again, but this time it wasn't random. It was responding. Every time one of us laughed nervously, the girl twitched. Every time we whispered to each other, her head snapped in direction of our mic. I swear every single sound we made, she reacted. That's when it hit us. The game wasn't just showing us something, it was listening. I muted the mic instantly, but my heart was pounding too hard. Could she hear that? Could she hear the rhythm of my breath? We sat frozen, trying not to make a sound, and that's when she leaned in again. Her eyes locked onto the screen, and for the first time she didn't smile. Her lips barely moved as she mouthed one word: quit. That's when we realized the real nightmare wasn't what we'd seen so far. It was what would happen if we tried to leave. We didn't even think twice. We slammed the keys, escape, Alt F4, nothing. The game just sat there, frozen on her face. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was just awaiting. We tried everything. Task manager, hard reset, even yanking the mouse. Nothing worked. The only thing moving was her tilting her head, twitching, eyes darting like she was studying us. And then it clicked. The mic. We hadn't turned it off. The realization hit me like ice water down my spine. She didn't want us to press anything. She wanted us to say something. I leaned back, shaking my head. No way we're doing this. But the longer we waited, the more the room around her began to distort. The walls behind her melted into static, the drawings of the cat twitching, stretching, spilling off the edges of the screen like they were crawling into our space. And then the chanting started again, soft, whispered, say it, say it, say it. My friend looked at me, pale, half laughing just to cover the terror. Dude, just do it. Just say it. So, with my heart hammering in my chest, I leaned toward the mic and whispered, "We love Cat in the Hat." The second the words left my mouth, the game shut off. Instantly, no menu, no credits, just black. We sat there in total silence, the hum of the PC fan the only sound in the room. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely touch the keyboard. We checked the desktop. No files, no evidence the game had even been installed. It was just gone, and you know what? For a moment we laughed, nervous, exhausted laughter. We'd survived it. Whatever that was, safe to say we're never opening that game at night again. But then just as we started to calm down, CRRRRCH, that sound, faint, from inside the walls, we froze, staring at each other, not sure if it was real or if our brains were playing tricks. And then, just barely audible, a voice whispered back, "I was made for him." And that's when we shut the lights off and walked out of the room.